What does gutsy mean to you?
I love this question. I love how you ask this question. To me, gutsy means connecting into your gut. It means connecting with that grit and that determination and that conviction, that fire in your belly, that get up and go, like get your horns out, that rah, I can do this. That's what gutsy means to me. It's an energy, it's connecting down in my body to find where that fire in my belly is.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm LauraAura, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. That inner spark that you once felt isn't lost or gone. It's probably just buried. Getting back to who you were before the world told you what you should be, handling those inner challenges and feelings, and trusting yourself to follow your intuition might feel a little daunting at first, but I promise you that they are the key to not only feeling more alive, but living more alive as well. Today, I'm talking with Donna Wallace about practical ways that you can start to reconnect with yourself, to feel more like who you really are, and maybe even rediscover who that is in the first place. Donna helps people all around the world to switch on their light. With over 25 years of energy healing experience, she has found the most powerful and effective techniques for you to heal. And not like the healing layers of an onion where new layers seem to continue to appear, but rather getting to the heart of the matter and actually fixing things. Her motto is, work that works. And big ask here, if this episode helps you to rediscover your inner spark or just gives you some information that you know could help someone else, I would super love and appreciate if you could leave a review and share it with someone who you know could use this message. Your support and your sharing helps us to reach more amazing listeners like you. Without further ado, let's reignite some passion, shall we? Let's get into it. Hello, Miss Donna. Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Oh, why, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So today we're going to dig into just relighting that inner fire, right? So many things drain our energy and just kind of put that bigness of ourselves down, right? Like I see it sometimes as that little tiny pilot light, right? Like it's still in there, but it's just a little tiny baby things. And we're going to get to that. But first, I want to make sure we get to know who you are. So talk to me about your entrepreneurial journey. What has led you to where you are here today?
I always wanted to do healing work as my sole SOLE income and never thought it was possible. I had a variety of jobs that I was pretty miserable in until found myself in an HR role in one of the big four banks here. And that was like the best it gets for me in terms of being employed by someone else and making a contribution in a people-centered way. But I had this burning desire in the back of my mind, you could say, of wanting to always do my healing work, but never thinking that it was possible, never believing that I could do that, or not being able to figure out how I could have a significant enough income from that to be able to live from and contribute to my family in the way that I wanted to. So it was a long journey for me to get into the entrepreneurial space. And the turning point for me was when my daughter was born. I remember distinctly, I was breastfeeding her in her bedroom, and I just had this moment, this epiphany, like, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. Like this, it's now or never. And there was something about my daughter arriving Earthside that was like, I know I've got to be all that I possibly can be. I don't want to be that parent that tells their children, I have a son as well. I don't want to be the mother to Archie and Violet that say you can do and be anything that you want to be, but here my dreams are on the back burner. I'm telling you, you can go after yours. I want to be that role model that they see, they know in their bodies because they're living it, that you can live out your dreams. And so I thought, to myself, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to give it a red hot crack and see what happens. And I did. I was completely sleep deprived because neither of my kids slept much when they were first born. Violet certainly didn't. And I was doing my healing work at night. I actually went back to my corporate job part time for a few days a week as well. So I was doing mum to a young toddler and working at night in my healing business and doing my stressful corporate job as well. And it was the most fulfilled I'd ever felt. Doing my healing work and finally doing the stuff that I knew that I was here to do was just, I was exhausted, but I was so lit up at the same time because it just felt right.
Isn't that such an amazing feeling, right? When you feel
It is.
that spark of aliveness, that like I'm exhausted, but I'm also fulfilled at the same time, and I know that I'm on the right path because of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's indescribable. But once you experience it or get it, even just a little taste of it, it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that this was an option, but now that I know, there's no turning back.
Right. And doesn't matter how many times you want to give up because I've experienced that in my business that I just can't because my soul is saying this is what you're meant to be doing, Donna. And there is something about living in a way and contributing to the world in a way that you were born to do it. And it feels like, I've got a beautiful life. I've got a family. I've got a husband. I've got a family. I've got beautiful community and friends around me. But there is something so powerful about feeling like you're doing what you were born to do.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like you're not like wasting your lifetime, wasting this lifetime. Like, I don't want to have to come back in and do this whole shabam again. Do you know? And yeah, so it's deep. It's soul deep, isn't it? That fulfillment.
It is. And I'm kind of curious, what would you say to the women that are like, I don't know what that thing is for me? They might be in a position or in a relationship or just in something in life. It could be career or personal, whatever. But like, I don't know what that thing is for me. Like it sounds like you knew that from a very early age, but most people don't figure that out quite so soon. So what would you say to those women that are not quite sure what that thing is yet?
I would say that you don't need to have the full vision of what it is. I feel like actually, and I still don't have like the full vision of what my future is. I am doing work that's fulfilling now, but of course, there's more to come, and I don't know what that is. So I would say that actually what's more important is instead of like knowing what the inverted commas thing is, that you follow your intuition and just take one step at a time. And that will get you to there. It will absolutely get you to there. So like just before I saw this like art class flash up, a life drawing art class flash up on my phone, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to do life drawing. It feels really uncomfortable and stretchy for me to go and sit in front of someone naked and draw them, but I think I'm going to do it. Like what if following your intuition is as simple as that? Who knows what that next step will, where that will take me? Like, will it mean that I meet someone really amazing and have this conversation that sets me on a particular path? Or will it be that I'm meant to be an artist? I don't know. But what if we didn't have to have that pressure on us to have a big vision and know exactly what we want to do and have this whole thing mapped out? Because in reality, that's not what it is like anyway. Life isn't like that. And I think we get caught up in that, the expectations or preconceived idea that we need to have the whole vision and a whole plan, and that's exactly how it'll go.
I think that the harder you plan it out, the more off the rails it goes. Right? Because like, I mean, I think that you can have like chunky bits or milestones or at least a direction, I think is helpful. But the more that you micromanage your plan, the more that shit is going to fall apart in front of you because it's like you have created this expectation now of how it's going to go, which I think is very different than like a vision or your intuition or like leaning into it, right? So sometimes we got to take our hand off the wheel and trust that like, hey, the information will present itself as I continue to take this one next step towards it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And also, what does it take internally for us to be able to move into that space of trust and taking our hands off the steering wheel? Like, what does that take? I'm interested in that exploration as an inner experience, because when we're trying to control things and trying to plan with things within an inch of their life, it just, we know that there's something within us. It's like, I don't know, I'm scared, or I'm coming from what's this place that you're coming from if you're trying to control it as you go. And it just never works out very well when we're like strangling the life out of something, trying to control and manipulate it to get what we want. But when we've got a level of, I don't know, spaciousness or confidence or freedom within ourselves to be like, okay, I'm co-creating here, me, my soul and the divine or the universe or whatever you want to call it. And then let's see where this goes and what happens. It's a completely different space to come from, isn't it? When we can be in that space and follow our intuition.
It is a totally different space, but I'm curious because I know somebody listening is like, okay, tell me how. How do I trust that? How do I, what is something that I can do to give myself that space? Because it's just such an unnatural thing for most people to do.
It is an unnatural thing for most of us to do. And I would say that there's a couple of things in the way of us being able to do that. Sometimes what's in the way is the trauma that we've experienced and our inability to process that trauma. So if we experience, so okay, I know a lot of people talk about trauma these days, Laura. So here's my definition. Something happened and it changed the trajectory of your life. So something happened, it might not even seem significant in the outside world, but to you it changed the direction of your life. When we have something like that happen and we've changed paths, unless we can process what actually went on, it'll start to change the way we think about things, how scared we are, how, we kind of go into that survival mode, into the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all those, responses. And if we start living from that place, then that's what I'm talking about in terms of strangling something and trying to control something. Versus if we can heal what's gone on for us and process it in a way that it no longer has that effect on us, it no longer has an effect of us being really scared or trying to control things or what have you, then it does a couple of things. It opens up that spaciousness within ourselves and a sense of safety, a sense of confidence that we can go out and create the life that we want. But also, ta-da, back to the beginning of our conversation, it switches on our light on the inside too. Yeah. So when we do that healing work and we start to process the trauma that we've been through, whether it's ours or, inherited trauma as well, then we start to open up from the inside. That pilot light starts to grow again, and we start to feel like more of ourselves again. We don't feel like, that changed person that we became after we experienced the trauma. We start to feel like our happy selves again.
Gosh, I couldn't agree with you more, right? Because when you have that unresolved trauma, whatever that is for you, and I love how you explain it, by the way. It's very simple. I think sometimes we get into like trauma comparison, like who had it worse and what was deeper. And it's like, if it impacted you, it impacted you, period. Right? Like
Yeah.
we don't need to compare anything. So I love how you explain that. But when you're carrying that around and it's unresolved, meaning you've not sought out therapy or other techniques to help you really unpack it and to release it, or whatever path that might be for you, if you've not gone down that path, you're carrying it. And what you do not heal, you store. Yeah, you're just like carrying around, you know, sacks of potatoes for visual
Yep.
reference. And that shit is heavy, right? Like it's no wonder it's hard to get excited about things or to want to try new things or to be spontaneous and try something new, right? Like with your art class, like, I can feel your excitement, your inner energy lighting up to want to do that, but you have capacity. It seems like you have the capacity to be able to receive that right now. If you've got
Mm,
unresolved shit, it's really hard to receive anything.
100%. Oh my gosh, there's so much gold in what you just said. First of all, I want to go back a step and talk about that heaviness. The heaviness that feels like a burden on your shoulders, it feels like carrying this heavy sack of potatoes. It actually feels like that in your body. It can feel like heaviness over your chest and inability to breathe with ease and depth. And it can feel like your chest is like getting squashed. And, it's a body experience, a physical experience as well. And then, yeah, the ability to receive, like that is everything. So when we go into a space of shutdown or our nervous system is activated in that way from that trauma response, like we can't receive. We are going into like our biggest survival patterns. And I don't know, 95% of my client survival patterns are like shut down, and I can do it all by myself. Thank you very much. Like I am fiercely independent. I've got this shit sorted. I'll do it myself. Like, hands out, leave me alone. And I can't receive from that space either. That's the problem with that being fiercely independent, right? There's no sense of being able to receive because we are shut down. We're like, I'm not going to receive any of this. I'm not going to receive the bad shit that you're trying to dish out to me, and I'm not going to receive the good shit that you're trying to dish out to me either, because I'm a closed book and I am just trying to get through life.
Yeah.
Compared to let's heal and process all of the stuff that you've experienced so you can feel like you can receive it again, so you can get all of the good stuff that you're meant to be receiving, so you can receive all of the light and all of the support and all of the energy and all of the, I love the name of your podcast, Laura, the gutsy, like, so you can connect with like what is deep inside your gut, that grit, that determination, that get up and go that you've got. Because when you're in fight and flight, like you just don't have access to those inner resources.
You really don't. And speaking of resources, it's great, so great that we're talking about, mental health and trauma and things online now, right? Like it's more of a regular
Mm-hmm.
conversation, which I think is so beautiful, because for so long it was like, deal with that shit behind closed doors by yourself and don't talk to anybody, right? So I love that we're bringing it to light. There's also a lot of information now, right? People are really inundated with like, I don't know what to do and what's the right next step. Could you make some recommendations? Like, what are you seeing that's working right now that you might suggest people to explore?
Is it too bold to say some of my work?
No, it's not too bold at all. It's a gutsy podcast, my friend.
I well, I, have spent decades refining what I do, because the exact thing that you've said, there is so much out there. And there's also a hell of a lot of work, inverted commas, modalities that you can do that you won't actually get results from. And so this is what I've done over the course of my life, is figure out what actually works and what doesn't. So, and I really did that, Laura, to be perfectly honest, because I needed it. Like I needed to figure out how to not be depressed anymore. I needed to figure out how to get through all of the trauma that I'd experienced as a kid and in my 20s, and, significant stuff. And I just needed to feel happy again. Like I just needed that. And so I've been on this mission to find the modalities that work the most effectively. And for me, I've landed on this combination of energy healing, emotional healing, and family constellation therapy. And the energy and emotional healing is so important because we are so stuck in our heads. And when we talk about mental health, mental health issues, it's such a big deal these days. But how many services are really actually effective in getting you to move through that space? I had one of my clients said to me at the 3-month mark of doing some work with me that this was more effective than 10 years of traditional therapy. And I was
Yeah.
like, yep, yeah, yeah, it is. Like, you don't have to stay in this place for the rest of your life, or sit in therapy for 20 years. Like, you don't need that. You can find some stuff that's really effective. And what I've found to be effective is trauma healing and releasing that from our bodies, and having you be connected in your heart and tuned into your intuition so you can make those decisions that are right for you. So, and that's everything. That changes everything. If you can live a life, like I've been thinking about this, Laura, like how how rebellious is it in this day and age to live a life based on your intuition? You know, like
Yeah.
for me, it's normal now. I've been doing this solidly for 8.5 years, solidly following my intuition in my life. But so many people out there are still like trying to figure it out from their heads, like going around in circles and thinking that, like, if I can just, be smart enough or figure it out or, like, I don't know, map it out, plan it out, rationalize pros and cons, like, oh, for Christ's sake, like, no, I just can't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't either. I operate everything, mostly everything. I'm not perfect at it. Mostly everything based off my intuition. And I've gotten it to a point now, in my life, in my business, in taking on new clients, if I'm going to go somewhere or not, right? Like basically every decision filters through my intuition. And it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And I always tell my clients too, like your intuition doesn't have to be loud and screaming. In fact, it's often just like a quiet little that kind of runs by, right? A thought, a feeling, something that you heard or something that you saw that you just like for a second, you kind of caught it and you're like, oh, that's usually when we dismiss it, right? Oh, no, that can't be something, right?
Yeah.
But I run everything through my intuition and it's absolutely led me to where I am now. And it's absolutely guiding me to the next chapter and where I know that I'm headed, right? Because I don't know, I look at it like our soul leaving breadcrumbs. Like, hey, here's the way.
Yes.
Will you pick this up and follow me? So I'd like to talk a little bit more about like what intuition is because it is still so new to a lot of people. How do you and how do your clients like how do you experience intuition?
Well, we know that intuition operates on lots of different levels. So if we go back to kind of intuition basics when you're learning it, there's clairvoyance, which is your clear, like being able to see, your clairaudience, which is hearing, your claircognizance, which is knowing, your clairsentience, which is feeling. There's more. But this is intuition can come in so many different ways. For the people who are intellectual, who are naturally intelligent and smart and have an active mind, the tricky thing for people who are like that is that your intuition will come through in your voice, in your own voice. So you'll think, was that me or was that my intuition? And it's actually it's an art to really trust that, or a practice to trust that and know that that was your intuition. The very first thing that comes through, I say always, like the very first thing that comes through before you've had a chance to second guess yourself, that's your intuition. For me, I'm clairvoyant, so I can see people's energy. I can see what's happening in people, and I'm clairsentient as well. So I really feel. I can feel your energy. I can feel what's happening for you. As soon as one of my clients has like a minute shift, I can feel it with them. I'm there with them. I'm looking at their energy. I'm feeling it at the same time. I'm feeling what they're feeling. I figured out how to be, I used to be really hyper vigilant and an empath and picking up on everyone else's feelings. And I figured out how to like turn that into my genius zone by healing my own trauma. And so, and I get messages clairaudiently too. So sometimes I get voices, sometimes I hear messages through songs like on the radio or a song stuck in my head, and yeah, all sorts of different ways. But I think the thing is, Laura, that everyone's natural state of being is to be intuitive. So we think it's the opposite. Like we think, oh, some people have that gift. That's not right at all. Like what's natural is for us to be intuitive and to be following that felt sense. What's unnatural is for us to be stuck in our heads and disconnected from our emotions and our body. But for some reason in our culture, we've got it flipped the other way. So when you do that inner healing work, often you're like, this is what happens for most of my clients a few months into us doing healing work is boom, like our intuition just starts switching on. And they're like, oh, Donna, I had this dream and I had this thing happen in meditation. I'm feeling this person who's passed away around me. And I'm like, yep, yep, yep. How good is this? It naturally will switch on more for you. But the thing that I wanted to say is everyone has a strong suit of intuition, at least one or two strong suits where it's naturally easier to get messages or feelings or, things, messages in a particular way. And that's as simple as looking at like how do you learn, when how there's different learning styles. Like I'm a visual learner and I'm an experiential learner. So same, like I have to feel things and I have to see things, like, and that's what happens with my intuition. I see things and I feel things. So when it's in your language, it's like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying, or I feel that too, or yeah, like I hear what you're saying. Like all the language that you have and the way in which you learn are really good hints and indicators of what your strong suits of intuition are as well.
Sometimes one of the most overwhelming parts of making a change is knowing where to start and learning how to get out of your own way as you do it. So I've put together a very simple yet incredibly effective tool to help you learn how to get out of your head so that you can make progress. If you go to LauraAura.com/foundations and sign up, I'm going to immediately start to send you 5 very simple audio clips, just like you're listening here on the podcast, to teach you my foundational method of getting out of your own way. This method has helped me and thousands of other people get past the point where you would typically talk yourself out of it. So again, go to LauraAura.com/foundations, sign up, and I'll send you the first one right away. Yeah, those are great points because I think a lot of people probably are already using it. They just don't realize that's what it is.
Probably.
Right. Like just like you said, I heard a lyric in a song and it stood out to me. I mean, it literally can be as simple as that.
Yes.
It can be that passing thought. It can be that little physical experience where you're having like a literal gut feeling or a tightness in your chest, or like, sometimes when you're working and you're like, oh, I haven't talked to so and so in forever, and you send them a message and they're like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you, right? Like there's no coincidence. It's likely the things that you're already doing. I think the magic becomes when you trust it.
Yes. And what does trusting mean? Does it mean that then you'll actually follow it? Like, that's where I feel like the magic really happens. So you get the message. Are you willing to trust it and follow it? Like, take the action. What's the point of getting a message if you don't do anything about it? Take the action, because that's where your life actually starts to become really magical.
Yeah, because it's guided information, right? Like we fight ourselves tooth and nail, right? We want to do things a certain way. We go back to that control. We go back to those responses, those safety things that we know so well. And it can seem really hard or unnatural for us to go against what we quote unquote know, to follow this thing, right? Like I think of Elsa in Frozen 2, where she hears the song, the woman's voice way out in the distance, and she's like, I don't want to hear you, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, but she can't stop hearing it, and she eventually goes after it and finds something for her. So I think that we all have that ability, and that's what's happening. Like I said, I love, love, love to look at it like our soul leaving breadcrumbs. And when you trust it, you pick it up. And when you take action on it, you follow through with it. And so much information, so many opportunities, the right bump in, the right call, the right whatever just seemingly appears, but it's only because you chose to follow it.
Yeah, exactly. A friend of mine calls it following the fun crumbs.
Oh, awesome.
Mish, her name is. And I just love that, like following the fun crumbs. It's so cool. And then about Elsa, like if you think about like how she was, wearing the gloves and trying to contain her gifts because it felt like a curse. And sometimes our intuition can feel like a curse at the beginning. But then when you know what to do with it, like look at the magical, the frozen castle that she built, and, the magic that can arise out of learning to harness your gifts is just next level. It's from the gloves to the castle. And so that's what you're doing when you're following your intuition and you're allowing your natural intuitive gifts to come through. You're building the castle, like this magical life of yours.
And let's talk about relighting your fire. My heavens. When you start doing those things, right? When you really give yourself permission to lean in and to try and to go off the beaten path and follow this stuff, like those opportunities can just take you from that little pilot light to a raging beautiful flame, like sometimes overnight, right? Like I'm not saying that it's always perfect, but I'm saying now there's the opportunity because you feel alive again.
Yeah. Yes. I'm just feeling what you're saying and reflecting on that. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a gift, and I get very passionate about this topic if you can't tell, because I see so many women dimming that light, dimming that fire, running off with just
Yeah.
this little tiny flame, and it's like we don't. I just want you to know, whoever's listening, that you don't have to do it like that anymore, right? That there are options, there are opportunities, and it doesn't change overnight. But if you believe in yourself just a little tiny bit more today than you did yesterday, that's already headed you in the right direction.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And it is hard to see it. It's hard to see it in other people. I find that really painful, um, to witness people being a shadow of themselves, because I know what that feels like on the inside. I know what that life feels like when you feel like a shadow of yourself. And I also know what it's like when you can grow into yourself, when you can turn that light on and you can be radiant and just be uniquely whoever you are. That is something else. Like, and I love, Laura, one of my favorite things is witnessing that transformation from the pilot light to the fully fledged like version of themselves. I'm so addicted to it. Like, I love witnessing transformation and people's light, like literally turning on right in front of my eyes. I love seeing that because we all know that we've got potential. We all know that deep inside. We all know that if we're suffering, we're not meant to be suffering. And like we all know that we're meant to be like so radiant. So, just yeah, we know we're meant to be like that.
Yeah. So, working through the past trauma stuff, following the intuition, these are
Yes.
two key elements.
Yes.
What else do you recommend? What else can the listener do today to start to relight that fire within themselves?
Learning to receive is something else that we've talked about. And I want to say this in a way that kind of sounds a bit fluffy and airy fairy, but stay with me, let me explain. We're learning to receive light. And so when I say light, I mean source energy. I mean, what does source feel like? What does the universal energy feel like? I know this sounds a bit like out there, but hang on.
Go for it.
It feels like bliss. If we really connect to what universal energy or source energy or God energy is, it feels like bliss. It feels like pure, infinite love. So when I say open up to receiving light, that's what I mean. Like open up to receiving pure love, open up to receiving bliss energy. And so you can do that. This is what I do every day is I like allow myself to connect in with that source energy above me. I let it flow into my body and fill me up. The beautiful thing about connecting with the energy in that way is that it clears your shit out and at the same time fills you up with light. Like it's healing you and it's filling you up. And then I anchor down into the earth and allow that earth energy to come back up into me as well. And I let my heart expand and I let my energy expand and I let myself become really big. And this is something that I do every single day, number of times through the day. And I created my 5 minute my 5 minute life changing morning meditation, which is a free download which people can access. Is me guiding you through that process of opening up, of learning to receive, and you can do it in a way that opening up to receive at the beginning can feel a little bit scary and a little bit daunting. Like, how am I meant to do that? But when you do it with the divine, it's safe and it's pure love, it's pure light. So you can do it in that way. And it just starts to open you up to receiving in all other parts, in all other ways, in all other areas of your life as well.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's fun.
We'll make sure that we link that in the show notes below so that you guys can go and listen to that. Because listen, we all have 5 minutes. Don't give me that. I don't have time shit. Like we all have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you want to make change, you will make 5 minutes. That's what it boils down to.
Yes.
Right.
Like 5 minutes is easy to do before you hop out of bed.
It is. And I think that that's really coming up for me to share is like this is intentional shifts, right? Like relighting your inner spark, your light, your fire, whatever you want to call it. it has to be intentional, right? You have to want it. You have to want it more than you want your excuses or continuing in the path that you've been down if you're not happy with it, right? It's
Yeah.
this whole it's an experience. And when you're open to new things and trying new stuff and like, I'm all into the energy work as well. It's a huge part of the work that I do with my clients. And sometimes I'm like, listen, sometimes we got to do weird shit. And that's okay. But if you're open to trying something with me here for a second, maybe, just maybe, this could guide you down the path that you've been looking for all along. And so I just
Right.
want people to know, like, when you're trying these things, and if you've never meditated before, or you've never connected with light before, or you're like, okay, this is a little bit of a stretch for me, but I'm curious. Hello, intuition.
Exactly. Exactly.
Your intuition is like, I am curious in this. Would you just follow me for a hot second and let's see how this goes? Like, let it be new to you. Like, you don't have to master it.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. All those things that you just said. Yes.
uh I'd love to hear, like, you've talked a couple times about the transformations with your clients. Like, what have you seen, like, people go from and to when they really lean into this type of work?
I've seen people in repeating patterns in relationships that are really harmful when you are really brutally honest about it, including domestic violence victims and things, patterns in relationships or ways of being interacting with other people. I've seen people do the inner healing work, or I've helped facilitate that inner healing work that allows them to get their emotional needs met themselves without needing anyone else to fulfill that. And so I've seen then those people have gone on to attract much higher caliber people in their lives and develop healthy relationships and figure out what boundaries are and know what exactly it is that they want in relationships and be really picky about that, but also be open and engaging and having that great balance. I've had clients that have dealt with addictions, so drug addictions and gambling addictions, and a sense of, it might not be as far fetched as that in your listeners' lives, but that stemmed from a level of inner disconnection. Like, I can't deal with all this stuff that I've experienced, and I'm just going to check out. I'm going to disconnect. I don't know, not feeling my feelings. I don't have any feelings. I'm just going to like spend my time doing these other things. Yeah. And so it could be any kind of addiction. It could be shopping. It could be food. It could be, you name it, alcohol or whatever, or porn or phones or yeah, like, and then I've seen people transform into that place of like learning how to reconnect, learning how to feel their feelings, learning what love feels like, learning what support feels like, learning how to give themselves what they need and not have their inner child throwing tantrums all the time and running the shit show of their life, and then moving into from that into again very healthy relationships and ability to feel like they've got everything inside of themselves that they need, and creating really profitable businesses and having beautiful lives and making a difference in their communities in their unique way. So I've got lots of different stories, but mostly what happens is whatever people are challenged with or suffering with, it can be dealt with that energy healing, with trauma healing, with emotional healing, and we can learn how to give ourselves what we've always been yearning for. Like, some people are yearning for that validation. Some people are yearning for affection. Some people are yearning for like someone to be proud of them. And it's all this like external searching in ways that they've never actually got. Like, we're yearning for something that we've never received before, and usually stems from childhood. But when we start to learn how to give ourselves what that is, it's like becoming whole again. It's a sense of like that disconnection in our emotions, in our body, starts to integrate and become whole again. You get what you need. And that means that you can actually have the things that you want. Funnily enough, like you stop searching for it externally, but then all of a sudden it becomes available externally because you don't need it anymore, right? It's a cruel joke. Like it's a bloody universal cosmic joke. Like the things that you've always wanted, if you can figure out how to give them to yourself, then it magically appears in your life anyway, and you get the thing that you always wanted. But
So beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's helpful for the audience to hear, like, the from and the to type of situation. Like, you know, this type of work can solve, the smallest problem. I mean, a problem's a problem, right? If something's bugging you enough, it's worth exploring to release yourself from it. But from the smallest problem to some of the bigger problems, like anything, like if you're not feeling great, if you're not feeling alive, if you are feeling disconnected, if you're having some of these, internal and external challenges, this work can be life changing.
it is life changing. Yeah.
It is life changing. Yeah, I've been on my own journey for a very long time, and I talk very openly about this on the show. Overcoming abandonment has been one of my core issues, right? Like one of the deepest wounds that I've had. And it's interesting the way you talk about, like, we have to give ourselves. And I had to learn to be okay with myself. I found in the process that I had actually abandoned myself.
I was just going to say,
Yeah, I abandoned myself. And when I realized that, it was like, talk about the floodgates opening, right? And doing inner child work and reconnecting with my inner little girl and my inner teen, and just like basically collecting the parts of myself that I unintentionally gave away. I realized that it wasn't really that I was worried about everyone else leaving. I was worried about leaving myself. And when I healed that, it I'm not saying I don't get bummed out if somebody disappears in my life, but it I no longer am striving to, like, I was in such a position where I would again abandon myself to keep other people happy so that they wouldn't abandon me. And it was this really kind of fucked up eight symbol, right? Where it was like energy out and energy back in, but it was not the great energy. But now that I've given that back to myself, it's like that sucks if you're gonna bounce, but I'm okay in me. And because I'm okay in
right,
me, I don't need to prove to you why you have to stay.
so powerful, Laura. And there's not that same emotional charge when someone does leave your life.
Yeah.
It's not like you're falling apart and you can't cope with that abandonment again, yet again. It's not that anymore. Like you've detached those hooks out of other people. You don't need them to fulfill that part of you anymore. And I love what you're saying about abandoning, realizing that actually it was about you abandoning yourself. I think what happens with abandonment or any kind of recurring sort of issue like theme, is that we had a level of experiencing that over and over again in childhood, and it creates this pattern inside of us that then gets replicated in other areas of our lives as adults, and until we figure out how to heal that, it just is a continuing theme. And then what we've learned as kids is that, okay, well, in your case, I get abandoned over and over again, people leave me, and it internalizes into this experience of you abandoning yourself in many ways. And it's really fascinating that we're talking about this, Laura, because I don't think this work ever stops. I think that we're always evolving and always healing and always figuring out how to unlock more parts of us and light up our lives and ourselves more and more. One of the things that I've been looking at for myself, and I haven't talked to anyone about this, so interesting, it comes up on your show, no less, is the parts of where I give up on myself, where I abandon myself. And my business is a really great insight into that. Like there are parts where I'll just be like, oh no, I don't need to do that today. And I'm like, Donna, you're not abandoning yourself again. You're going to stay to your word and give yourself the thing that, even though it feels really uncomfortable to do take the action, you're going to give yourself the thing that you need. And so I've been seeing where I give up on myself and I abandon myself. And I've been really in the in the depths of exploring that at the moment, just getting more and more refined. Those what seems like little mini things now. They're not giant self-sabotage stuff anymore, but it's like getting to those nuances, those finer, yeah, where I still do that, and allowing myself to receive, again, coming back to receiving the things that I know are good for me, the things that I know that I need to do for myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's how beautiful that this topic came up then with that, something that you're already working on. Thank you for sharing that, because it's so incredibly relatable. And I think it's also really inspiring that, some of the big stuff at first, it is big, right? But it's heavier if you keep carrying it. And if you go through that, these things, they become smaller little kind of chess pieces, right? Instead of a whole board. And it sounds like you're moving chess pieces right now, right? Little ways to come back to yourself. And when you think about it, it's so mind-blowing, right? It's so simple but so complex. All of this, all of it is just about coming back to who we were before the world told us what we should be.
100%. Yep. Yep.
It seems like it should just be like, whoop, there it is, turn on the switch and there it is. But it's like we're letting go of so much stuff that was put on us, and we're just setting things down as we walk along, right? And it makes you feel lighter. That inner light starts to come back up. You feel more alive, you're more energized. And then that not only impacts you, but it impacts the people around you. And I think that that's a gift to the world as well.
That's a beautiful ripple effect, isn't it? Yeah.
In case somebody would love to explore this work with you or go down the rabbit hole or learn more, where can everyone find you on the internet?
You can find me on my website. So that's donnawallace.com.au. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is Donna Wallace Healer. I have a second business that we haven't spoken about at all, and that is I create jewelry that is custom made for people's souls and unlocks that light, like helps people blossom and transform with an energetic process through colored gemstones. And that's a whole nother kettle of fish we could probably talk about for a long time. But if anyone's interested in that, I offer free energy readings. I look at your aura, tell you what color, what they mean for you, and try on different gemstones and tell you what I think your perfect match of a soulmate stone would be for you. So you can have that as well. So that's a 10-minute free energy reading through my business for the House of Orion. But you'll find all of that through my website, the donnawallace.com.au website, with that free 5-minute meditation.
Fantastic. We'll link all of that in the show notes. And I have to know, what does gutsy mean to you?
I love this question. I love how you ask this question. To me, gutsy means connecting into your gut. It means connecting with that grit and that determination and that conviction, that fire in your belly, that get up and go, like get your horns out, that rah, I can do this. That's what gutsy means to me. It's an energy. It's connecting down in my body to find where that fire in my belly is.
I love it. All that connection. Thank you so much for your energy tonight, your wisdom, the knowledge that you share. It's profound work that really is truly changing lives. And because of that is changing this planet that we live on. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here with you.
I love the reminder that healing can be so much easier than we allow it to be. I'm not saying that it's easy to heal. I'm saying that the tools and the techniques don't have to be fluffy and complicated and drawn out. You get to live a life where you feel connected and inspired and free. And it all starts with finding the right tool that helps you do it. Again, if this episode helped you to rediscover your inner spark, I would so love and appreciate if you could leave a review on the app that you are listening to this episode on right now. And share it with a friend or a family member or a colleague that you know that could benefit from hearing this message as well. If you want to connect with me online, come over and say hello. I am at that LauraAura on all platforms. And of course, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.